K-pop Demon Hunters is the winner of the Critics' Choice and Golden Globe Awards for Best Animated Feature and Best Original Song. Golden. Winner of the Grammy Award for Best Song for Visual Media.
Let's do this.
It's now an Academy Award nominee for Best Animated Feature and Best Original Song. It's a love letter to the power of voices bringing people together and the most celebrated animated film of the year. K-pop Demon Hunters. For your consideration. Now playing only on Netflix. Rated PG. Parental guidance suggested.
Hi, everyone. I'm Katey Rich. This is the Prestige Junkie Podcast. And today I am finally getting to dig into this year's Oscar season with a guest who I've really been dying to have on basically since this podcast started. Jacqueline Coley, awards editor of Rotten Tomatoes and host of Seen on the Screen with Jacqueline Coley. I am so glad you're here.
Thank you so much for having me, ma'am.
Yeah. So today we're going to talk about Sunday's Independent Spirit Awards. We're going to look ahead at the BAFTA Awards that are coming up on Sunday. And then mostly we're just going to try to properly catch up. I saw you at the nominees luncheon a couple times, but we were both just like heading in opposite directions and trying to outrun the rain and like lots of other
It was a busy day. It was a busy day.
Quite a day. So we'll get into all of that. We'll do a status update on the Oscar race. And then after Jacqueline and I talk, you listeners will hear my conversation with Wunmi Mosaku about her Best Supporting Actress nomination for her role in Sinners. Welcome to the show. Okay, Jacqueline, I kind of got done with the nominees luncheon on Tuesday, which we'll talk about more, and felt so exhausted I had to leave town. But you have been going strong throughout award season. We were both watching the Indie Spirit Awards, at least actually at home. I feel like, did you take your opportunity to stay home when best you can to save your energy?
I did. This was actually more of just a circumstance, and I was actually very jealous not to be there because they were in their new location.
That's right.
I feel like the indie spirits are just becoming more and more indie, reflecting that market. So I wasn't able to attend, but it was not by desire. I originally did have a table. I think I was actually sitting maybe with some of the folks at Neon. I was bummed not to make that, but it's still great from home. You get to see all of the great wins, and it was a good night, I think, for showing how that award show is different from the Oscars.
Yeah. I mean, I thought Ego Nwodum was a great host for it. She got time to do bits. You know, any award show that doesn't feel like it's constantly rushing you through to get to the whole thing, which is what the Oscars have been really terrible about. I don't think anyone got played off on stage, even if some people went a little bit long. You know, you get like Clint Bentley, I think, spoke twice. I think Alex Russell, the director of Lurker, spoke twice. And they're like, no, this is your time. We have an independent spirit here, like you were saying. I mean, wins-wise, did anything stick out to you about the winners on Sunday?
I was really, other than, again, it has its own flavor at the Independent Spirits. For many years, going back to like the Moonlight years, there was a lot of lockstep with the Academy Awards. Yeah. There were similar films that were sort of ending up there and then ending up at the Academy Awards and similar wins. So I like the differentiation. And somebody like, I would say, Rose Byrne winning for Best Actress is a perfect example of that. Train Dreams, this film that definitely, obviously has tons of Academy Award support. It's a Best Picture nomination, but definitely not one that is in that one battle after another Sinners Hamnet conversation. So that film, getting Clint, getting those guys to have a moment on stage. Also, I will say, between Clint and Greg, two of the nicest guys in filmmaking. And I would really encourage folks, if Train Dreams is the first things of yours they've seen, go back and look at Jockey, Sing Sing from just a couple of years ago. These guys, in just a short amount of time, have really shown both as writers, producers, and directors, they're really a force to reckon with.
Absolutely. I didn't realize until I went back and looked at recent Indie Spirit history, really going back about 20 years, that the best film winner there is almost always either a Best Picture nominee or something that like we thought was going to be a Best Picture nominee, like The Lost Daughter or If Beale Street Could Talk. So I guess if you were to look at this feature lineup that they had, it was Train Dreams and then 4 other movies that did not have any Oscar nominations. Yeah. So it like probably would have been the obvious pick. But I don't feel like it's an obvious kind of award show. I mean, you get something like Naomi Ackie wins supporting performance for Sorry Baby. Like, what a cool win. Like, you get The Plague. I think the kid from The Plague won breakthrough performance. Like, there was just really interesting stuff happening all over the place that didn't feel like rinse and repeat of the Oscars.
No, I loved the Naomi Ackie win because, again, this is probably the only recognition. I mean, that film has been getting some recognition, but mostly in the Best Debut Writer or Debut Director conversation for Ava Victor, as it should. And clearly she won for that last night. But rarely has Naomi been part of the conversation, and she gives an incredible performance. I also thought the same way a few years ago when Janicza Bravo's film Zola, when Taylor Page won for that one. It feels like a similar moment of like, hey, we're going to give this a moment to have its time in the sun.
Yeah, and like good, strong supporting work that's not like the flashy part of the movie. That's interesting. Those roles are kind of similar.
Mm-hmm. And I love that. And in the independent spirit, the folks that vote on that, that's a group of both filmmakers and film enthusiasts. And so it's, I think, a nice mix of people that just love movies for the love of it, as well as people who are working in the independent space and trying to make films.
I think you can just pay to be a member, right? Like you can just
pay to be a member,
anybody.
But anybody can join, but the people that usually join, like, again, these are not, I'm not saying that there aren't folks that are living in that sort of AMC Marvel crowd, but it's very less so. These are people who are like passionate, like they knew about Sean Baker since Starlet type folks, right?
Yeah.
And then in addition to that, if you are somebody that is trying to work in there, joining Film Independent allows you to be a part of these like mixers and meetups and a lot of other things that people in certain cities, especially in New York, LA, find valuable for like networking. I know a few folks that have been a part of their competitive workshops, and they train on all areas, not just writing and directing, but also below the line people, producing, if you're trying to be an on-set craft person. Yeah. They have places that you can go to sort of like use their resources to, and I think that's a huge part of the foundation and the cool stuff that they do.
Yeah, like for an industry that feels so famously inaccessible, and how do you manage to make your own film? And like, you know, we did an episode about Sundance a couple weeks ago, like the state of indie film always feels eternally precarious, but it's like the best possible way to be like, here, be part of our club. Like if we're going to survive, we need more people to come be part of our club.
Definitely. And they reward things, like they have awards for like producers that have been established that still haven't made it. Like they really do try to look at, I think, all aspects of the business and all ages.
Yeah. Okay, so among the winners, I did note Adolfo Veloso winning for Train Dreams. It was a big night for Train Dreams, but Wagner Moura stood up as the presenter, and I did have that moment of being like, do they know that it's going to be another Brazilian who wins? Because I think, as we both know, the enthusiasm of Brazilian film fans and people in the industry is massive, and Wagner opens the envelope and he said something in Portuguese. I loved that moment, and it did make me wonder about the cinematography race. Like, I think Train Dreams is beautiful. Like, that might be the best place where anyone thinks it could take home a win. But do you think it's a real threat, since Sinners is kind of looming over that category and many other crafts?
I'm going to get to that, but I just also have to say the love affair amongst the Brazilian nominees this year between Clever and Wagner, their casting person, they've like been like in a little like Beatles bromance. Like they've been hanging out the whole season, and I love that they had that moment. Like
I do also think Wagner is the most popular person in the awards race. He seems to have befriended everybody.
And I think that's just who he is. Like, by the way, the man, I've done just a few Q&As with him, and he's invited me to Brazil on every single one to be like, come to the house, do the thing, you'll love it.
Please
Girl,
go.
There's a part of me that's thinking about it. There's a part of me that's thinking about it. But I'm like, I have this job. When am I going to go do this? After Cannes?
I don't know.
No.
This is part of the job.
But this is the deal. I believe, unfortunately, that those two films are equally deserving. And
so now we're in Train Dreams and Sinners and cinematography.
Train Dreams and Sinners and cinematography. Yeah. So bringing it back to the cinematography conversation, not to ignore your question, I think both films are very deserving. And if either one of those names are called on Oscars night, I will be the first person cheering. And I think they would be cheering for the other person. Autumn, of course, would mean more. It would be historic, and it would be history making.
Do you want to just explain why it is history making?
She would be the first woman and the first woman of color to ever be awarded a Best Cinematography Prize in the 98-year history of the Academy Awards.
And how many other women have been nominated? Like two or one?
I think it's two.
It's like one or two. Rachel Morrison was the first for Mudbound less than a decade ago.
And then I think there was one more since then, but like, don't quote me on that. She may be the only one, and we may have gotten snubbed for somebody else. So like, excuse me if I don't. An astonishingly
low number, basically.
An astonishingly low number. And also a group that is like also very difficult. Sometimes, I mean, it took Deakins 2 decades, 3 decades.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like, this is not an easy prize to win. I think in a lot of ways it's one of the most difficult ones. But I feel a Mank type situation. Remember when Mank won Best Cinematography, and I forget which year that was up against, and it was kind of
the 2020 year. Hang on, I'm heading to Wikipedia. My favorite.
I think that was Nomadland, right?
It was the Nomadland year. Judas and the Black Messiah, News of the World, and The Trial of the Chicago 7 were the competition.
And I think everybody, including me, those vistas in Nomadland, those to sweep, I thought that was the win. It was the big movie that year. It was the one that was in the Best Picture conversation. But then Mank took it because Mank, people believe, was the more technically impressive.
Black and white is always an edge in this category.
It's always an edge. And another thing that is always an edge is you make every frame a picture. Sinners is beautiful, but there's a lot of action. There's a lot of moments that are more about the driving nature of the film and keeping the audience together. Train Dreams is a silent photograph. You know what I mean? Like in so many different ways. And Adolfo's work really leads the narrative, like how he's able to frame these shots, these moving sequences across the vista. And so I think for a lot of people, they find it to be more impressive. There's a lot of things when you look at Sinners that you find impressive when you watch it, the writing, the acting, whatever. When you watch Train Dreams, you see some of that, but the most arresting thing is the cinematography. So I could see the Academy saying, we want to give this film something. We know that Sinners is going to win a lot, maybe even Best Picture. I know that's like a controversial thing to say.
We're getting there, don't worry.
You know what I mean? But I really do feel that like that one might be the surprise win and he might be the surprise person. I wouldn't make that bet today. I'm just saying we'll see what happens, especially at ACE. Like when we get, not ACE, for the Cinematographer's Guild. Do you know what I mean? Like once we get there.
When are those? Do you know off the top of your head? Sometime soon?
Sometime soon, girl. Okay. Don't quote me. It's like the awards calendar is in my waters, but it may not be in my brain. I know the actor awards are on March 1st.
We do have that much. We have the BAFTA Awards coming up this Sunday.
The 22nd. I'm like, I can feel these dates instinctually, but something tells me that one may be in that first week in March.
Okay. All right. It's coming up in there. Well, speaking of Netflix titles that won't win Best Picture but are in there, The Perfect Neighbor winning at the Indie Spirits, I don't think was really a surprise, but it did make me wonder if in what has felt to me like kind of an unclear doc race, that it's just going to like steamroll the entire rest of the thing.
I think so. I mean, it's like, it's the popular one. It's the one that everyone has access to.
Thank you, Netflix.
You know what I mean? And it's one that you can't watch it and not be just sort of like grabbed by how they made it. Yeah. Like the choices that the film, because I find sometimes, like in the Won't You Be My Neighbor and some of these, what I would consider more commercial documentaries, the documentary branch and folks that vote in that branch have kind of shied away from those.
Oh, yeah. If it's too popular, they say absolutely not.
I know. But this one, because it was so, I think, technically and from a documentarian style way, like it approached it almost so clinically. I mean, this was also an acquisition, so I think that is part of it. It doesn't feel like a Netflix doc. It feels like an independent doc that just got this amazing rollout.
Yeah, I mean, Netflix, for all of the documentaries on that service that are absolute garbage that I think everyone in the doc world hates, like that visibility is such a huge benefit. And The Perfect Neighbor is just like a really sober and detailed and both in its subject matter and the way that it's made, like using these body cam footage, like knowing that we have this world that's completely full of cameras and being able to use it in that way. Like I was pretty blown away by it. And I think both by having the advantage of being seen by so many people and being so muscular in its own, it does feel like it can just walk through the rest of this.
Yeah. And I think, listen, stranger things have happened, but the biggest hurdle for that movie was getting past the shortlist. And so I think it's already achieved that. My
doc nomination predictions were totally off. Like we got that short list and I was like, these seem like the ones that'll make it through. And then I think I got 2 correct. Like it was a real hard lineup to predict.
Same. I thought Orwell 225 would have been more a part of it.
Yeah, or My Undesirable Friends, which was nominated at the Indie Spirits, but it's also really difficult to see, which is kind of I guess No Other Land was the same thing last year. It was difficult to see.
But No Other Land, they made such an effort. Yeah. Like that one was you got to go to the screening one. Do you remember that? Like they had a lot of people from that area of the world hosted screenings.
Yeah, that effort to self-distribute is really impressive. Okay, any other Indie Spirit wins that are interesting to you, or should we move on to gossiping about what we saw at the nominees luncheon?
I mean, I think they're all really good. I think we mentioned Rose Byrne, right?
Yeah.
That's the main one. She was my meth mommy. I loved how she looked so cracked out in that movie. She should be rewarded for it after doing like the fact that the woman was in Bridesmaids, Neighbors, and now this. Like, I don't think people really clock
gives one of the best performances of all time in Spy with Melissa McCarthy.
Yes, absolutely. So like her range is crazy and.
But do you think
low-key Australian? That's the other thing. I'm like, it always boggles my mind when she speaks in that accent. I'm like, what up? And then now Conan O'Brien can make a joke about a movie that he was in.
That's right. That's right. God, he's so good in that movie, too. Do you think she has a chance to beat Jessie Buckley, though?
No, girl. That was her moment. I hope she wore a great dress. I hope she had a good time, and she's practicing that face because Jessie's getting that Oscar. Like, girl has got it.
I imagine you felt like I did in the fall, where it was like, Rose Byrne is so great in this movie. It's so hard to watch. It would be amazing if she got a nomination. And then when she starts running away with the Critics Group prizes, it's like, oh, so now she's just guaranteed a Best Actress nomination for something we thought was such a long shot. It was a really exciting thing to happen.
Shot. You know what, though? I felt she was more in because I saw the backlash for Die My Love.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And I felt like this movie having such a good reception was one where they could be like, yeah, not that.
So it's like, not that we don't like moms who are in trouble. We just don't like this mom who's in trouble.
Exactly. And I do think there was a little bit of that.
Yeah. So If I Had Legs becomes the more palatable option somehow, despite being like a radical, difficult movie.
They both are. And I also think, Die My Love is less about motherhood and more about betrayal. But that was probably the mistake in the marketing. Like, there's a whole bunch of different things on that one. But another day.
We'll be recapping that one for a while. Okay, so at the nominees luncheon, like I said, I saw you for a while. We were kind of doing interviews in our separate little bunkers, and then getting to go inside and, watch the class nominees photo happen and everything else. I've talked about it already on the show with other people, but I want to know what your experience was. What did you see that was of interest at the nominees luncheon?
I mean, I think the applause line is always something that people in my world pay attention to. The year that Regina King won, she was the high applause line. The year that Angela Bassett lost, she was the high applause line.
Interesting.
So there's always like a little bit of like here, there, everywhere. I was very interested to see how well Stellan was received. I think the biggest thing of note for me there, other than the fact that, everybody is still thinking they can do things. Like, people are campaigning. It was interesting to see who didn't do anything.
In terms of coming to the luncheon, or just in this
or
case
more like
in general?
the press around the luncheon, like who was still like doing interviews, trying to like talk about who was still campaigning.
Yeah.
Timothy
Delroy
Chalamet
Lindo staying to the very, very end to make sure he does press stops. I noticed that.
Exactly. Timothy Chalamet was one of the last people to walk in the door. And he just went to his table and chilled. Same thing with Paul Thomas Anderson, and the same thing with actually Ethan Hawke. And you could say that's for different reasons. Maybe Ethan, was just like, hey, I've been here before, and I know it's not my year. I'm happy to be here. So why am I going to go do all this stress? But then you also see somebody like Kate Hudson still really campaigning. Wunmi Mosaku really campaigning. Amy Madsen really campaigning. I still think that Best Supporting Actress race is much more interesting than I think people think about.
Oh, it's totally fascinating. Do you think you know who the front runner is?
No, and I don't think we will until at least past SAG. Because I also say Amy's history with the Academy and a lot of those older voters is a big factor. The international factor of how popular Sinners and One Battle After Another were internationally is going to be a big factor. There's a lot that is
and sentimental value being like very beloved by the Academy.
So, there's a lot of it factors as to why that race may not end up being what people think.
Yeah, but I don't even know what people... I guess maybe people think Tiana Taylor is the front runner because the movie is so strong.
Because the movie's so strong, she did win the Globe, and she gave a really great speech when she won the Globe.
Speaking of campaigning, she's done a lot of stuff. She is everywhere. She was the last person up on the stage for the class photo, which is not nothing.
No, and Delroy was the first. And so I would say their applause lines were very high. And so I did note that, but doesn't necessarily mean everything, right?
Yeah, but the highest applause line was for Ryan and Zinzi Kugler. I think easily,
the highest.
Right?
I mean, I felt Delroy was pretty loud. But I would say
he was also first.
He was also first. But they made it. I would say Ryan was up there, but no, I don't know. Delroy was really loud because he was the first name and his was still deafening. Like, people barely heard that his name was there and they still kept cheering. So I would say apples to oranges, right?
Fair enough.
Who's higher, but they were both pretty high. I agree.
I was watching, I could see from my seat, Ryan Coogler and Emma Stone were sitting at the same table, and they were seeming having a ball. Like, I loved it. I don't know if they've met before, but they seemed to really enjoy it. But it did, You have Guillermo del Toro up in front of that photo. He's sitting there with Paul Thomas Anderson. There is kind of like an elder statesman thing. But like Ryan Coogler felt like it was almost his party. It's just like, oh my God, we're all here to celebrate that what you managed to do. And the success of Sinners, we've been talking about it for a year. Basically, it is this kind of jolt of hope in this industry. But then I sat there in this relatively small room and said, does this mean Sinners is going to run up and win Best Picture? And I haven't decided the answer to that.
I don't think you should, especially until we get through the Actor Awards and a few other ones. I think what is very interesting is at every turn, everyone, including myself, have underestimated the popularity of this movie.
Sure. I don't think anyone thought it would get 16 nominations. Like, that's huge.
Also, and where it got them. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? But I think it's going to be an interesting moment. And I do hate to say this because I'm not saying that they're doing nothing, but the press averseness of the One Battle After Another folks due to either scheduling or just, I don't really like doing that many interviews.
Sean Penn.
Being Paul Thomas Anderson. He's not a huge person to go run and do a bunch of interviews, and neither is Benicio. These are just people who are like, nah, I'm not going to do that probably. And they don't have to in a lot of ways. Maybe that's the it factor because the Sinners people are outside. They are there. They are everywhere. Ryan Coogler is
not the easiest person to get an interview with either. Like he's out there living his life. He's focused in what he's doing. He obviously just did a huge Hollywood Reporter cover, so he's less press shy than Paul Thomas Anderson. But and I think it's been helpful with the two of them. Like it just seems like they really obviously respect each other, and having them both be a little bit outside of these huge campaign machinery has made it easier for them to just kind of, I don't know, like focus on what they actually want to do and having this, mutual admiration, which I think it reflects well on them in the movies as well, I think, for them to stay out of it a little bit.
No, I don't disagree. But if that's an it factor for like, hey, this got in front of other people. I literally did a Sinners Q&A yesterday, and there was a person there who'd seen it like 8 times, another person who'd seen it 11.
Wow.
Like, so it's like, it's just interesting to me to see like the dedication that people have with this movie.
Yeah. I mean, so I've been doing a lot more Q&As this season than ever before, which has been a totally fascinating window into what you were just talking about who's getting out there, who is really visible. I said to somebody, like, the fact that Leonardo DiCaprio has spoken to me 3 times this season means he is out there. Like, if that's just my interactions. Is there anyone else you've noticed that with who is, like, really committing, who's putting in the hours on the trail?
I mean, definitely, I would say Delroy. He's definitely been putting in the hours. It's
not something he has done to this. I mean, maybe for Da 5 Bloods, but that was a COVID year, so it was different. I just feel like
it was very different.
He's kind of a rarity on the circuit in that way.
Yes, he's definitely been putting in work. Different work, but Timmy has been putting in work. He's just been putting in different work.
It's true.
And the work he's been putting in lately is felt more traditional, and he has been pretty flawless with that as well. So, I you know what I mean? So I think for as much, I think heat that he maybe got in the early part of the year, later on, it sort of changed. And then Kate Hudson, on Scene on the Screen, we interviewed Craig Brewer, the director of Song Sung Blue. And, he's talking about Hugh and he's talking about Kate. But even early when they were promoting that movie, they were talking about her. Hugh in every Q&A was talking about her. Like I think would have been very happy if him or the screenplay or some other aspects of the films would have been nominated, but like everybody was pointing towards her. And then she, in turn, when she became the only one representing the movie, was everywhere.
And continues to be.
Yeah, and you could see that even in our conversation, the way he talked about like both of them. He talked about both of them effusively, and Craig did, but the way he talked about Kate, he's like, this is just her best work. People need to see what she did. And I was like, and then they did.
My favorite thing that went out there was it was a Variety tweet. I think it said Kate Hudson reunited with her old coat from Almost Famous. And I don't know where this video was taken, why the coat was there, but just the fact that is the extent to which they are getting out there. I was like, oh, they are in this. Good for them.
Yeah, no, they really were. And so, I'd say those were the ones that I can kind of think about. But then, you know what? Nobody's ever going to beat Diane Warren. That woman... There's a reason why she's been nominated as many as she has. She works at it. She's very good at making...
Did you talk to her in your interview studio?
I did not talk to her in the interview studio, but she was there. She took photos with us. She's taking photos with us every year that she's nominated because she gets nominated every year. And like, you cannot knock that woman's ability to do that. That is not by accident. It is made through old school Hollywood. Like, I'm here and I'm showing up.
Yeah.
Also, EJ and the K-pop folks in general. That was not expected. I first spoke to EJ at the Middleburg Film Festival in Virginia. And even from then to now, you can just literally see how they've just been like laser focused on what they're going to be able to do for this and staying on message and not letting, because like Sinners is right there. They're literally like, if y'all stumble,
you mean in the song category.
In the song categories, like,
no,
I'm
that's
not
a
saying,
good point.
You know what I mean? Like, if y'all stumble, we will be right here to slop you up with our wins.
Look, Raphael Sadiq was doing interviews at Nominees Luncheon. Like, that's how you can tell they're serious.
You know what I mean? So I would say, in general, they very much pushed. And also, I would say all of the casting director ladies and gentlemen
who got huge applause at in the class photo, every single one of them, because they've worked with 80% of the room, probably.
Everybody in the room. No, and it was an interesting moment too, because they're normally shy ladies. Like, one of my favorite interviews that I've ever done is I got Sarah Finn Hawley, who cast the entire MCU, to sit down for an in-depth print interview, and that woman does not say yes to anything. Yeah. Like, I mean, because they're busy, you know, they think they're a part of the work, but they don't want to be front and center. They don't want to take away.
Gossipy, and that's how they're good at their job. Because I interviewed Francine Maisler, who cast Sinners, and I was like, even amongst yourselves, do you guys like talk about who didn't get it? She was like, no. And I was like, oh,
because it's a huge part of their job.
And you need them to trust you. And I was like, oh God, I'm too much of a gossip for this job.
I mean, think about a bad audition tape. Like, having somebody's horrible audition from way back when that they would never want anyone to see. Casting directors have that, and they don't want to put that stuff out there, because then who wants to sit for them? So it's a whole thing. And so them being able to talk about something, and therefore talking about it so much because they have to as part of the promotion process, I really enjoyed. Because again, also Nina Gold, she's beautifully British.
Yeah, they're also so cool. Like, every casting director, because I don't often talk to them because they haven't been on the circuit like this. So it's been extremely fun. Yeah. The secret agent casting director included, who is, not part of Hollywood
Gabrielle.
At all. And is really just taking it all in.
Oh, he's having a blast, by the way. Yeah. And also, can I just take a minute to talk about what that man did? 60 different speaking parts, and over 80% of them were non-professional actors or something crazy like that, where he's like going through like lookbooks and things. Like, it was such a instinctual casting process. Like, that's crazy. And then they've got to go act alongside Wagner.
And do an incredible job with it. Actually, sidebar, before I was going to move us on to BAFTAs, but so The Secret Agent I've talked about a few times as feeling really unlikely as the big international breakthrough. It's complicated if you don't know Brazilian history, but even if you do, it's not always easy to follow. It's kind of a deliberately like elliptical story, but it's been, I think, undeniably the big breakthrough. I mean, sentimental value, but it is a breakthrough as well, but it's got a bunch of English in it and stars and all of that. How do you account for why The Secret Agent has done so well?
Well, I'll give a shout out to the folks at Neon. You don't get 4 international nominations without knowing what they're doing. But the main thing I will say is the Cannes it factor is really, really huge right now. And a lot of people saw that film at Cannes and then took back to their international markets how approachable it is, because it's not a ton of dialogue. It's really like kind of an old school detective story slash Escape from Alcatraz type story. You know what I mean? It's like a detective, but also I'm a fugitive on the run story, right? In the Fugitive type way. I mean, look,
if we just keep remaking The Fugitive in different ways for the rest of time, great.
And I think because it was such an experiential film, like just from the way it opens with that like sweaty gas station where you're like, this is not right. He's a little paranoid about the cops. Just all of that, I think, made it to where if you saw this in a theater, you felt it and it stuck with you more so than I think some of the more disposable or less like stay with you features that you would see. So I think having it start at Cannes and then having it have a somewhat like traditional in the sense of like, we're just going to keep going to these festivals.
Yeah. I mean, they've been everywhere.
And they just had their technical real release. Like the real release is like now. Like, you know what I mean? Like it wasn't, you know what I mean? So like, I think
Neon sent us with a lot of their movies. I got invited to the Surat premiere, I swear happened in early February. And I was like,
yeah, exactly.
How is this movie only not premiering?
Exactly. And so I think like, that has something to do with it. Like the fact that it like kind of waited, went to a lot of festivals, did its qualifying run and then release. I just think it stayed in people's minds. Yeah. And Wagner's kind of the perfect star. Everybody wants to see what he's doing, if I'm being honest as well. I think that was like the hugest it factor for that one.
My Instagram algorithm keeps finding me new videos of him sambaing, like just dancing in various places. And every single time I'm watching it. So obviously I'm going to keep getting more of it. The power of the algorithm for good for once.
Yeah.
Okay, let's wrap this up by looking at BAFTA. It's coming up. We will not be there, but all of these other contenders will be there. I mean, I think the Britishness of it, the Europeanness of it, I think not wanes, but the more international the Academy gets, the more lockstep they seem to be.
Yep.
So I guess my question is it just a one battle after another sweep the way that we think the Oscars might be? Or do you think something interesting could happen for Hamnet or Sentimental Value or something that seems more quote unquote European?
Well, in general, I believe that the BAFTA has been a more predictatory group for the Academy since they've gone global. Especially around big prizes, but also some of the crafts prizes. So, for example, if Train Dreams takes home the cinematography prize, that is not to be ignored. That is like something to like, we need to like dial down here. It is less influential if, say, somebody like Inga wins for Best Supporting Actress. That may feel a little bit of the BAFTAs. So you kind of have to be careful where you give it credence.
Yeah.
But I would say I don't think it's going to be a one battle after another sweep.
Yeah. It'll be interesting. Go ahead.
In fact, I think it might just be director and film. Like it could happen that way.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it will, but it could.
It feels more interesting as proving ground for Sinners because, Sinners did better in the U.S. box office than overseas. I think the question of like how American is this is a question. BAFTA has a pretty terrible history with Black actors and talent also, so that's an interesting question for them. I think it got really widely nominated, not quite as many as it did at the Oscars, but it seems kind of impossible for Sinners to go home empty-handed. But I don't know where I would put my chips on it. It's in a lot of competitive spots and almost everywhere.
Casting.
Yeah.
Casting.
Yeah, we assume it's going to win the casting Oscar and the SAG ensemble also.
Exactly. And I think, I don't know for sure, but that one feels very likely.
Yeah. And I assume score as well. Although I was just rewatching One Battle After Another and God, I love that score so much. And
it is a great score, but girl, no. Ludwig is winning that. Ludwig is winning that because also people are just thinking about, and it's right before he's probably going to win one for the Odyssey.
Oh God, for God, he's going to
like
4
that kid
Oscars
is going to be our
time.
John Williams. Like I've said this in tweets and like people have like laughed at me. I'm like, no,
this is
who
a
else
great
do you know
point.
That can do a Greek epic and produce a Beyonce track? Like that dude is built different.
So he's cooler than John Williams is what you're saying? He's got even more bragging rights?
Yeah. He's like John Williams and Hans Zimmer like mixed, but like that kid is going to rack up Oscars because he is limitless as far as his genre capabilities, in my opinion. Yeah. He was already playing with us when he decided to do African music in like Black Panther, and no one batted an eye because it was just that good. Like this
a guy
kid was
named
like,
Ludwig is pulling this off. You're like, okay,
test me. He is literally like, I do not care. I will make music with everybody and anyone, and it will feel completely authentic and not appropriate. It's like that man is just. He's just brilliant. So, he's going to win. I'm sorry. I'm so like, I wish I could be like, no, he's not.
No, I think I completely agree. To go back to acting in Sinners, and I guess to tee up my guest who we'll hear from in a minute, I am looking at Wunmi Mosaku as being British and being in this category and being in a really many times nominated film. Like we were just talking about Tiana Taylor as being in a strong position. Like I would maybe think it's down to the two of them plus Inga. I mean, I love that BAFTA went their own way and put like Carey Mulligan in for the very lovely Ballad of Wallace Island. Yeah, never know when weird things might happen, but that could be a really interesting spot to look for Sinner's strength.
And that's what I mean when I say too. It's like you don't know. A British person winning at the BAFTA, you want to discount it, but it could be actually what people are thinking. Because I do think that there's enough factions in the supporting actress race that it might be a surprise.
Yeah.
And then also too, I think there's a lot of people who are one battle after another supporters who are also like Marty Supreme people. And I'm not saying that they like voted this way, but whoever those people are, their number 2 is Sinners. And if we end up with a less than 50% split and it goes to the ranked ballot, that's where Sinners' love among everyone really factors in.
Is this how Michael B. Jordan wins Best Actor in an upset victory? Look.
In my wildest fantasies.
I do think the best actor even every time I start thinking it's just Timmy's to lose, I let myself indulge in all kinds of crazy situations where literally any of them could win. Because I want something weird to happen.
I mean, listen, do we remember the Lady Gaga Glenn Close year? That was a crazy year that neither one of them won, and it ended up being
Olivia Colman.
Oh, yeah. But there's no Olivia Colman like that this year, I think. If it is, it's going to happen in the Best Supporting Actress race. It won't happen in, that race.
I mean,
it took him so long. He should have been nominated for Killmonger. I'm sorry. I just don't know if these people can understand how good he is yet.
No,
they will.
True. I mean,
he's got the Thomas Crown Affair coming. Mm-hmm. But even Timmy's gotten crap for saying this, but Timmy has done stellar work for 6 years since Call Me By Your Name. Exceptional work.
He's overdue for an Oscar at the age of 30. We should all be so lucky.
And then A Complete Unknown, that was his first one since
Call Me By Your Name.
Since Call Me By Your Name.
Yeah.
The kid has 3 Best Lead Actor nominations.
Mm-hmm.
That's the other kicker. There's lead. He's not even in the supporting, I snuck one of these in here. No, he is lead on all this. That's crazy.
If we could just go back and give him that Oscar last year, and, Adrian Brody, I love The Brutalist, didn't need a second Oscar, and then we could just have that taken care of, and then get Benkel B. Jordan Oscar this year, or even Leo his second. I support that as well. It just, it would simplify the process so much, but
no,
they got to put me in charge.
Bad Oscars. No, I shouldn't say bad Oscars, but Oscars where people, it's they're due, beget more Oscars people are they're due. There's no way to fix it now because there's been too many people that have missed it on the first chance that are needing the second. You know what I mean? There's too many of that. And so as long as we live in a world where Glenn Close doesn't have an Oscar, there's going to be
will never be served.
There was going to be a moment where she's in an Oscar movie and it's going to be somebody else deserved it more. And it's going to be no.
Yep. Yeah, you can't go back and fix everything. All right. Well, I will look forward to seeing how this all plays out at the BAFTAs and seeing you again sometime before this crazy season is over. And then hopefully we both get to take a nap. Someday.
Oh, yeah, definitely tons of vacation time, tons of it's no vacation time. We'll be in a can in 2 seconds. I'll see you at CinemaCon. It's
Time
Emmy
to talk
season.
about 2027 movies already. We're already on top of it. In the meantime, thank you, Jacqueline. I'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
Frankenstein has been nominated for 9 Academy Awards, including Best Picture, Best Adapted Screenplay Guillermo del Toro, and Best Supporting Actor Jacob Elordi.
I cannot forget what I am.
Also nominated for 8 BAFTA Awards and 3 Actor Awards, Jacob Elordi gives the most transformative performance of the year.
You did something. I am someone.
Frankenstein, for your consideration. Now playing in select theaters and on Netflix. Rated R, under 17, not admitted without adult.
Now let's hear my conversation with Wunmi Mosaku. She has earned her first ever Oscar nomination this year for her role as Annie in Sinners. Like everyone else involved in the movie, she tells me it's been pretty incredible to be out on the award season circuit with so many of her collaborators, including co-star Michael B. Jordan and her director Ryan Coogler. But in our conversation, she also reflects on the individual journey that she's taken to get to this point, from being a drama student at the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art in her native United Kingdom to the many auditions and chemistry reads she's done in this industry before the totally unique and really gratifying process that brought her to the set of Sinners. You can hear all of that, her totally fascinating process for memorizing lines that I had never heard of before, and much more in my conversation with Sinners star Wunmi Mosaku. So we're speaking the day after the nominees luncheon, which was the first time I'd been able to go there, and really kind of lived up to the hype for me in terms of seeing so many people and seeing all these reunions happen. How is it for you? How are you processing what that experience was like?
Oh, it was so lovely. I think it was the first time I feel like it was the first time I really celebrated the nomination. My husband and I, we went for dinner that night, but it was very impromptu because we didn't plan anything because I was trying to keep expectations kind of regular. It was the first time I had celebrated and felt like really able to just really truly enjoy the moment. So it was really, really nice, joyful. Everyone was really happy, and they said in there, everyone in here is a winner. And it truly felt like that. Like, this is the celebration right now. I know I'm not sure how it will feel on the 15th of March, but I really hope it stays like that kind of pure joy.
Yeah, I talked to Ruth Carter, the costume designer of Sinners, afterwards, and she said, she's won 2 Oscars, but she had never been really nominated alongside so many people she worked with. I mean, nobody has. Sinners has literally broken the record. So I wonder if that was part of the celebration, that there was just so many people to run into who you'd made that movie with.
Yeah, that felt really great. I must say it felt really great having the casting directors up there with us, because so many of us have auditioned for these people for so many years. So it was so nice to I was stood next to Nina Gold and I was like, isn't this nice? I've auditioned for you since I was 20 years old. And here I am, here we are stood together. And but yeah, it was so nice every time someone from Sinners was called out, and especially Ryan Coogler got a big old cheer. It was really, really nice.
Oh, yeah. You can tell he wasn't quite last, but it felt, bringing him up on stage for the class photo, they knew that he was going to get this huge cheer, right?
Yeah, him and Zinzi. It was great. It was really great.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like I really noticed the casting directors, what you're saying, that every one of them got this big round of applause. And I had the same thought, what you just said, that as actors or even directors or anyone, casting directors have been so part of it. You build this relationship that, people like me don't necessarily get to see on the screen. So it's it all finally comes to the surface.
Yeah, it was really nice. Yeah, these relationships, they are long time built. I think I did a Q&A the other day with Amy Madigan and Tayana Taylor and Miles and Odessa, and someone said, was there one person who really changed your trajectory in this industry? And each of us mentioned a casting director, a casting director who gave us time, a casting director who went to search out a complete unknown, or just give us good advice. And actually, I mean, they are really critical and crucial to our careers.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, not to make this entirely about the casting process, but I got to talk to Francine Maisler a couple days ago, and I talked to her, about a lot of the work on Sinners. But I also know that your part on this kind of started with a long phone call between you and Ryan Coogler, and I think it was supposed to be half the length of how it turned out. Best kind of phone calls. So, just did that make this process of being part of Sinners different from the other casting experiences you've had, or was there kind of a more traditional part of it too?
Francine has brought me in a lot of time, so her. I'm sure Francine was cheerleading me on, before that call too. And then I did also have a chemistry read with Michael, and Francine was there. So it was very much like a traditional audition in that respect. So yeah, I definitely feel like she was a huge part of the casting process, because I didn't know that Ryan had written that role with me in mind until my last day. So
would it have psyched you out if you'd known? Are you glad you didn't know?
I don't know what it would have done. I think it's always really important to audition. Don't get me wrong, one day I would hope to never audition ever again, just not because I don't love
offer only
just
from
not
here
because
on
I
out.
don't love the casting directors, but because it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work that you put in.
Of course.
And but I do think there's something really when you feel like out of all the people they saw, they thought you were the one who could do the best for this role. That gives us a little bit of confidence and self-belief. Whereas I think the times I've had a role offered to me, I've had far more self-doubt about my capability. It just feels a bit like, are you sure? Are you sure it's me?
Did you really uncover every stone and make sure there's not someone else out there?
Yeah. So I don't know. I think if it with Ryan Coogler, Michael B. Jordan, Delroy Lindo, if I had known that the role was written for me, I think I probably would have felt unworthy. And I think I would have felt really, really anxious. Because now I felt, I feel like I did kind of prove myself in the audition process. So yeah, I probably wouldn't have been as confident. Or maybe I'd gone the opposite way and been way too confident. And and been rubbish.
And we wouldn't be here today.
Maybe.
Does that set aside the anxiety of when you step on the set? Because I always think about that first day of going into something and you've done your prep, you know what you're going to do, but being on the set is a different thing. Does having that confidence built from that process let you kind of go there and say, okay, I'm the person for this kind of no matter what?
Yes. However, it's really interesting because I felt on the first read through, I was like, oh, these guys have done all of their work. Like I can tell the difference between Smoke and Stack. I felt like Miles's voice, like he knew the songs, like, and I was like, oh, I felt really kind of like I was waiting to get to Louisiana to do I mean, did I even do any dialect work before I kind of got there? I did work before I got there, but it wasn't like I felt like I really needed the rehearsal period with Ryan. I feel like I really found Annie through the costume, the dialect work, the relationship with Michael. So to me, it felt like it all came in together. It was coming together through those 2 weeks of rehearsals. I felt like I had done research on Hoodoo, but I don't feel like it really. It didn't feel vivid until I was in Louisiana. Until I met Hoodoo practitioners. Until I kind of was in the world, like going to House of Hoodoo, like just being around priestesses. I was like, oh no, I'm getting it now, rather than just it be like a book I was reading, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's something also about giving something your full attention, right? And I mean, I think about this often as like a parent or any other kind of job. It's like when you are trying to live your life, you're trying to be in it. And then when you can go onto a set, something like that, especially in Louisiana, with all these craftspeople around you, like it's just going to bring something out of focus and like something physically in you that you just aren't going to get in your head.
Yeah, I definitely felt that. But that's a really interesting question because I do remember feeling like, oh, these guys, I feel like I can see their characters so clearly, and I was still very much finding mine, and that was just on the read-through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, isn't there also the danger that you do your research, you're like, she's going to move like this, I'm going to do this in this scene, and then you got to be able to react. Like acting is reacting, and you know, in a movie like this that's so physical and so much is going to change, like you've got to be ready to change that, right?
I agree. I'm also someone who doesn't really say my lines out loud. And I don't believe in like learning your lines. I believe in reading the script over and over again. And I have a good memory. So the lines can, like, if I struggle over a line, to me, it's not the right line.
Oh, yeah, interesting.
Because I never sat down and learnt Annie's dialogue. I never sat down and learnt it. I worked through it with my dialect coach, and I've read the script like every night, but I never felt like I had to like memorize it because it was just such a he says this, so the natural thing that she's going to say is this. Like that's the only line that makes sense in this moment. Emotionally, this makes sense, and so. For me, if you can't remember a line, it's because you haven't found the emotional connection to that next line. And if you've done all the work you can and you still can't find that emotional connection to the next line, to me, it sounds like there's an issue in the script of like, oh, that's probably exposition. That's probably this. That's probably, it's not coming from the emotional reality of the character. So, yeah, I'm not someone who like preps like that. I'm like, I know all of her lines are swirling in my head and in my heart and in my body. And the right one will come out like when I hear the right like prompt.
You were saying you have a good memory. Have you always had a good memory? Does theater training give you that? Or do you think you go to theater because you have a good memory and you know you can make your way through that?
I'm dyslexic. And so I really struggled through school. Like, I remember in like year 6, which is, I can't remember what the school system is here, but like age 10 to 11. Oh. So before you go to high school, which is, I think middle school.
Yeah, about 5th grade.
So I had my SATs exams, which I guess you call SATs, but we had like a small one, and like for the little kids. And I just remember like watching everyone just start writing, and I was still reading the first page, and I was like, I can't read this fast. I can't read this fast. And I did so poorly on it. And I was like, and so like what kind of developed from that was, as I read, I memorize. And so I can't skim read. Like I read every single word. I don't know how people skim read. I don't know how people read things that are written phonetically. I'm like, oh, that's now gobbledygook. Reading English is hard enough. Now you're telling me to read something with that's written phonetically. And at drama school, when I was auditioning for RADA, my sight reading portion of the audition was so bad. It was sight reading Shakespeare, and it was so poor that they offered me my place at RADA, but in the offering they said, we're pretty sure you have dyslexia from that experience. And so when I got to RADA, within like the first term, I got assessed for dyslexia, got told I had dyslexia. And in my assessment, they gave me, they tested my eyes and da-da-da-da-da. And so they gave me this blue filter to put on all of my pages, because my eyes get stressed from bright light, white paper, black paper. My eyes get very stressed. And I used to fall asleep thinking I was bored, but it turns out my eyes were just shut because they were tired of the stress.
Wow. So
that like kind of revolutionized everything for me, that blue filter. So now I get my when I so in drama school we do like speech and verse. So you do a Shakespeare speech and a poem every term, speech and verse or song and verse. And one day I printed a Shakespeare speech on blue paper, and I found that I memorized I read it 3 times, and I pretty much knew that speech word for word, just from reading it 3 times. And for me, taking the white paper out of the whole out of my life has just kind of revolutionized how well I read, how fast I read. And blue, for some reason, when I put blue paper, I memorize things like that. So that was like, that's my little secret for memorization. I have my whole scripts. I can't read on computer screens, laptops, iPads. I get my scripts printed on blue paper, and it just goes in.
This is like the best, most specific acting advice I've ever heard. Like blue paper, like because I bet it would help a lot of people too. Like, yeah, totally fascinating.
It really was life changing. Now I enjoy reading. I do sometimes.
Yeah. Can you get like books on blue paper? Like how do you read books that are printed by other people?
So I use the Kindle with the kind of that kind of gray background.
The glow, yeah. This is brilliant. Okay, I gotta try this. You were talking earlier about an interview you did with a bunch of other fellow actors. I guess it was that in Santa Barbara. Were you were in kind of a big group conversation talking about casting director?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, sure. Yeah, it's so interesting the way that throughout this awards process, you wind up interacting with people who you haven't worked with, and you wind up in these group conversations and talking to people. Like, what do you get out of that? You go to drama school, you've been around other actors before, but how has that part of it, after you've already made the thing and getting to talk about the work, like what kind of perspective does that bring for you?
Like doing Q&As about Sinners, or like interacting with the other actors?
I guess kind of both. Like, I mean, talking about Sinners for this long, I think is fascinating too, but I think the like meeting other people from other parts of the business is really interesting, and like what, bouncing off of other people like that who you didn't know already kind of brings for you.
I really love talking about Sinners. I feel like Delroy said this the other day. He's like, every time I listen to my to Michael, Delroy, Miles, Ryan talk about their process, or the things that they've learned, or like how Ryan, like the other day I just blew my mind. Ryan talked about the color palette, and I didn't know, like, the color palette was red, white, and blue. Like, and then and then like
Annie's house is blue and the juke joint is red.
Stacking that are red, and then the white is like Annie, and when she comes back, and there was something. The church was white, the spirituals at but then everyone like then Sammy and Delta Slim were in like the earth tones of like. I was like, I just every time I listen to them, I learn something more about their process, about how I want my process to be, what Sinners means to them and what it means to me. And it's become more and more clear to me, like the message I got from Sinners as a film, the message I got from Annie as like a guide of like humanity and motherhood and spirituality and connectedness. And every time I don't get bored of talking about Sinners for some reason. And when you get good questions, like you're like you learn something new again, you hear something new, and you feel something new, and you're like, oh, you think something new, like with a different question. I just think it's such a powerful piece, and it's so layered that it really doesn't get boring talking about it, because something new will come every time. And then in regards to like the other actors that I'm meeting along the way,
or costume designers or directors or anybody,
I think the most
really.
people I've spent time with will be the other actors. I really enjoyed like making new friends who are experiencing something that is so unique. And like yesterday, me and Amy Madigan exchanged numbers. I was like, someone was asking me like, have you made friends on this? And I was like, I think so, but I don't know if they would call me their friend. And she's like, I would call you my friend. And I was like, okay, then we should exchange numbers. And then this morning we're like texting, or like me and Tayana Taylor going out for coffee, or me and like it's just been really. Sometimes I find the idea of the industry far more scary than it really is. Like you think, oh, these huge stars and these that like I don't know, you just think like they're not going to be warm, or and every time I'm like so pleasantly surprised, or you feel like, oh, I always say I suffer from little old me syndrome. And actually when I meet these people who, like, obviously every time I go on a set, like, I've been very, very lucky. I've really just had great experiences pretty much my whole career. Like a few little bad eggs here and there, but I would say majority of the time it's been really lovely and supportive, but even the not so nice experiences have never like tarnished a whole job or whole experience. It's been like, I just don't mess with that person,
Sure.
And so like I think it can feel like more intimidating, and like because you're always told what Hollywood is like and what Hollywood people are like, and then you meet them and you're like, oh, you worked your way up just like I worked my way up. So there's a humanity, there's a humility, there's like a gratitude. So it's most of the time you're meeting people who are like, I can't believe I'm here. I can't believe I'm here right now. Like, I'm so grateful. And so it's been really, what do I get from it other than like, makes me love the people I'm in this industry with more and more. Like, Jessie Buckley said it at the Golden Globe. She's like, I just love our community. And I do. I really do. I I've just been like, I've just always kind of have this like, the thing I was conditioned to think is that Hollywood is scary and people aren't really nice all the time. And so like, every time I meet someone and they're like, it's like, oh yeah, you know they're going to be nice. Like, you're a person.
You're a person.
Like, you know, walking into an audition with Michael B. Jordan, you think, oh, it's Michael B. Jordan. He might be just delightful, most respectful, most loveliest, like fun, you know, oh, it's easy. It's okay. They're just people.
Yeah, it's easy. Do you think an experience like this and like having Oscar nominee next to your name gets rid of some of that little old me syndrome? Or do you kind of feel like you have to hang on to it to go forward, that you can't, you know, rest on your laurels in that way and you've got to keep
Oh, I definitely don't feel like I can rest on my laurels. I think it must be, you know, like listening to Amy Madigan at Santa Barbara International Film Festival, and she said, you know, sometimes you're like, should I give up? Have I given up? Because I mean, how long is it before the industry tells you that it's over? Like, have I given up without even realizing I've given up because they've moved on without me? And so I don't think there's ever any kind of sitting on your laurels, because it's such a precarious thing where you can go 40 years between nominations, no matter how bloody brilliant you are and how well respected and loved you are. You know, it's one of those things that it's just like, it's not, nothing's guaranteed. And I think everyone feels really lucky when a part is written that they could possibly play. You know, you're like, you know, if Ryan didn't write this character, if Ryan didn't write this film, if he didn't write this character, if he didn't have the upbringing that he had, he might not have cast Annie like me. He could have cast someone completely different. So like, I think everyone feels incredibly lucky that when creators create things that they can be a part of. I think the little old me syndrome, I don't know how helpful it is. I don't know how much it does me a disservice. Actually, sometimes, you know, like I look at Ryan and he doesn't have little old me syndrome, but he does have like every single person I have ever come in contact with, every yes, every no, all the love, all the hate, anything, everything that he has lived through has given him like his gift, his clarity, his purpose. And so when he's on a set, it's not little old me, it's every single person is absolutely integral to the success of this film. So that's whatever that is, where he, you know, where it's like
treating people as people. It's like what you were saying before, like see other people as human beings.
Exactly. So I'm like, I want to keep.
Not always easy.
I want to get rid of like the little old me syndrome and be more like, you know, there is more in like, I matter, my voice matters. Like but I'm also the product of everyone who's ever poured into me, good and bad.
That does it for today's episode. As always, you can find much more award season chatter over on Prestige Junkie After Party. Just a $5 a month subscription gets you a bonus episode every Friday. Lots more to dig into as this season goes on. There will also be a special Saturday episode of this podcast coming later this week with another conversation with a fascinating Oscar nominee. So look out for that as well. In the meantime, this podcast is edited by Brett Fuchs and produced by Brett Fuchs and me. Our theme music is by Dave Gonzalez. Thanks again to my co-host, Jacqueline Coley. Subscribe to the Prestige Junkie newsletter at theankler.com or to this podcast on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or anywhere else you get your podcast. We will see you on Saturday.